everybody, what's going on? Here we are back at the bench on a not so very cool November day. This lack of cool weather is starting to annoy the crap out of me, actually, because I like cold weather. This warm weather doesn't work for me. During the summer, okay, whatever, it's summer, you got to expect some warm weather, but when fall comes, I want cool weather. I want to be able to, multitask and bust out a lot of work and not, sweat through my underwear. So I'm kind of fed up with the temps. Anyway, so here we are. What are we going to do? I'm going to do a quick touch-up on this blade. This is a old Greaves. It's got, major amount of what, some people might call, spine wear, and it's got giant bevel and everything. It's an old near wedge. I didn't want to hone it with tape, and sort of as a response to all the ninnies on the internet forums who will always they're always wrapped up in spine wear and all this bullshit. Figured I would just hone it like that. So yeah, I remember a long time ago on one of the forums there was a guy who was trying to pimp himself as a hone for hire kind of dude, one of the hone meisters. I hate that term. And he wound up eventually starting a shaving soap company or something. Maybe he does honing too. I don't know. All right, so guy would constantly talk about. People would come on the forum and look for someone to hone their razor, and he would always say things like, "Oh, you got to find somebody who hones your razor without wear." And that sounds terrible, right? It's a very, very hard stone. It's a pretty hard nagur. And the mic is attenuated in a way where it amplifies some of that higher pitched stuff. So whatever. So I'm making a light slurry here to do a touch-up. So anyway, this guy on the forum would tell newcomers, "Oh, you got to find someone who hone your blade without wear on the spine," which is kind of an asshole comment, because the way a razor works, right, is the spine is on the stone, the edge is on the stone, and then there's a flat behind the edge, and that's your bevel, right? So when you're honing, the spine wears, the edge wears. They wear at the same time. This maintains your bevel angle. Theoretically, the existing factory bevel is, ideal or close to it. A lot of people say, 17 degrees. Whatever it is, okay, the people who make blades know what they're doing. So if they set it up with a 17 or an 18 or a 16, whatever degree bevel, you kind of want to follow through with that. If you put tape on it, eventually you could knock that proportion out and you wind up with too stout of a bevel. You could. It might not happen. It might happen. I don't know. How important that is, there's just how many times are you going to hone it? How many times is a tape blade going to get on the stone? How long does it take to knock off, 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees? What was it before? What is it now? There's a lot going on here. So, when people ask about tape, I say, yeah, whatever. Use tape if you want to use tape. I tend to not want to use tape, so which is why you see this. But I will if I have to. And I don't stress it. But I don't stress spine wear either, because this is just part of the game. If you're wigged out over spine wear, I don't know, go collect stamps or some shit, It's like having a car and being upset because the tire wore after driving it across the country. It's whatever. So I jokingly call this the best Jnat in the world. It's an Ozuko, and it's phenomenal, okay? Definitely one of the nicest stones I've ever had. I give it that moniker of the best Jnat in the world just to piss people off. Because the best for me is not the best for you, and there's no way to say this is best and that's not best. I just say that. All the forum geeks like to argue about minutia and you know, perfect accuracy all the time. It's like you're rubbing steel on a stone and you're shaving hair off your face. That's all you're doing. If you think you need NASA level tolerances to do that, you got problems that a new stone and a better razor are not going to solve. All right? So there's that. So, yeah, I just figured I'd do a touch-up on this. And I like to keep the slurry wet, you know. And even though I'm, like, not really using a lot of pressure or anything, I do like to rotate the stone. I don't do it all the time on camera because I'm thinking of other things, but when I'm honing by myself in the kitchen or at the bench here or whatever, I do rotate the stone a lot. You know, I don't have to clear swarf because I'm not like really creating any. This is just like a basic polish. The resistance here on the stone that some people mistakenly would call stiction, it's not stiction. You get stiction in a valve when it freezes after, like, not freezes like, you know, cold weather, freezes from like being in one position. This stiction is static friction. If the blade is moving, it's not static. So the term doesn't really apply for me. And before any of you, like, you know, physics geniuses want to hop in here and like start like quoting some textbook of yours, the bottom line is it's not static, okay? So that whole argument thing is lost on me. The whole stiction thing is just like, I remember when it showed up on the forum, it was one of those guys that like to argue. He came from one forum that was famous for kicking people off of it to another forum, one that I go to regularly, and it was like, oh, this is called stiction. It's a vacuum. You're creating a vacuum. You have a polished surface. It's like you're removing air between contact points. Call it whatever you want. Okay, you want to call it stiction, go right ahead. I don't, because I think it's dumb to call it that. I think it's like a whole bunch of guys trying to sound like they're doing something special is what I think it is. Just on that alone, it annoys me. It's like, you know, again, rock, steel, right? Keep it simple. You don't need $5 words to hone. So I am experiencing resistance. On this blade, I usually get it fairly quickly because of the amount of polished surface. You know, people talk about, oh, the stiction, I got amazing stiction. You have a big bevel? Do you have, like, you know, big spine wear? Using a big polished piece of tape, it's sticking to the stone. You've seen a couple of videos where, like, I can put the blade down and it'll stick. See? That is not stiction either. No, I'm not, here my hands, not touching the blade. Nope, it's not a parlor trick, it just happens. Thing is, with a blade with a smile, you're not going to get as much of that because of, and you're going to warp in the grind. You're not going to get, so this whole stiction or whatever you want to call it doesn't mean much, right? People want to like make it like, oh, it's a telltale sign. Well, you know, if you have a smile and a warp, you're not going to get stiction. So, like, what's your telltale? There is none there, right? Crazy. So anyway, this is super hard. It's super fine. It's like a great stone. I love it. This is a phenomenal blade. Technically, it didn't need to be touched up. It's just, I have a thing for that fresh off the stone edge, that kind of crisp, kind of cutting experience. But this is a hard blade to hone. I don't know if you can see it. There's like sort of a little bit of a jerky motion that's due to so much polished surface, all right, and irregularities in the grind. Irregularities in the grind, you can see, right? Like, the bevel is not perfect. It's not perfectly straight because there's, like, you know, wave going on. Handmade, you know, in a dark factory by a guy who, like, you know, probably had a liter of wine with lunch. I don't know. Whatever. It's a razor. You're not flying it to the moon. You're not splitting atoms. Again, rock, steel, hair, face. Keep it simple. Some people don't want to keep it simple, though. Guys that, like, want you to buy stuff. They want you to obsess over buying stuff from them so they can, like, you know, stay rich or whatever they're doing, or get rich maybe. Maybe they're not rich yet, but they think they're going to get rich on your backs. So they're trying to sell you the new latest and greatest thing all the time. And it's like they're constantly coming up with drama and, oh, you need fucking stones with this kind of top or, yeah, whatever, crazy shit. I don't think I need to do any more on this, to be honest. I'm just going to do a little bit of extremely light work. That's it. I'm done. All right. So that's all I need for like a touch-up, and I probably didn't need to do that. And some people say, oh, why are your videos so long? Well, because I'm talking. And I'm talking about stuff, and I'm doing things, and I like to hone, and it doesn't hurt to hone a little bit too much at the finish on a Jnat. If it was a 12K 90 watt, no, I would do like, maybe 20 strokes, and then I would be done. But, yeah, I don't understand people that do like 50, 60, 80, 100 passes on 90 watt 12K. It makes no sense. It kind of like feathers your edge. So, these are the same people who are like, oh, synthetics, they're harsh. Yeah, because you hone wrong. All right, so what else is going on besides that? All right, there was some drama in the forum. Some guy in one of the threads on a particular forum, he didn't act, hello. He didn't act according to somebody else's expectations. So you're probably wondering what that is. And so this guy who's a vendor went and blew the whole fucking thing up on, I don't know if it was YouTube or some other social platform. I don't fucking know. This is like insane shit to me. Why are you putting people's business out there like that? It speaks more to you than it does, to them and their indiscretions. And I actually read through all the supposedly offensive material. I got to tell you, I wasn't that offended. Not really. It is what it is. You go on a forum, you expect people to talk to you like with kid gloves and blow sunshine up your ass. You're setting yourself up for a resentment. I just think like, this guy who made a big stink out of it is just, I don't know. There's like some kind of like, there's a float missing out of that parade, man. That's what I got to say. Anyway, so what's this? You may remember me working on making a hone long time ago. I haven't stopped. I just kind of take breaks from it, and I go back and forth, and I think a lot about things. And, I made, God, so many. This is like the 15th or 16th, maybe even 17th or 18th one, and like the third out of this particular like series, formulation and style of manufacture. I've just been kind of ironing things out, trying to get it to where, I want it to be. So anyway, you're not seeing double. I have two. But listen, you hear how that has like that high pitched? Until this batch, I wasn't able to get that kind of sound. And that sound doesn't mean it's better or worse than anything that's already out there. It just means that I reached a level of like texture in the stone where it's like, now the material is a little brittle. And I tested that. I did a drop test, and yep, it shattered just like it's supposed to. Kind of hurt to do that, to be honest. And worked with a new form factor for two reasons. One, this is a little easier for me to make. Two, the other mold broke. This guy Dewey, I don't know where Dewey is. Dewey hooked me up with some molds years ago. He like made me molds out of like aluminum with little brass hinges. The other one completely fell apart. It got squashed. It got hurt. This one, the glass cracked. The edges are falling apart. They've been through the mill because they get superheated, and you got to pry them open. They did their job. They serve well. They are now, rest in peace, they're gone, and I'm working with a silicone mold. It was a little small, but the thing is, see how it's like a little thick? So when it's in your hand, right, and you're working, it's like it's safe, like that. This is a work knife that I use, and this was actually the first test edge that I put on one of these. And nice sound, right? So I took principles from several Barber Hones. I've had more Barber Hones than like most people. Like I can't count at this point, but there's a handful that I thought were like, okay. And I took good principles from them, and I figured out how they were formulated. I figured out some of like what was in them, or guessed and combined and mixed and matched, and composition and composite and blah 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 blah. Anyway, this was the first test edge. I guess my point is this is born from existing Barber Hones. That's all. Modern materials, okay, modern abrasive, like literally fucking, like. This is like military grade abrasive in here. This is not like what you find in a sharpening stone. The particle size distribution in this is so ridiculously tight, it's insane. Okay, does that make it a better hone? No, it just happens to be what I'm working with. So anyway, I took one of these. Now I use this to cut leather, and I've been making a lot of strops, and this gets beat up. It's not particularly hard steel, and it gets sharpened like all the time. It's beat up. The bevel is a little wonky because I just do it quickly on a stone to reset and like make a cutting edge and this and that. But what happened is I wanted to test the other stone, and I didn't want to test on like my dope like shaving razor. So I took this thing, right, and I was just like just doing this like a bunch of times, and and then I took what was essentially a non-cutting edge. So you're saying, oh, well, it's just a cut. From a blade that doesn't cut to a cut like that, that's really impressive. Because it was only like, I don't know, 30 passes on that stone when I got that type of cut. Okay, now I used this morning to cut through some hide. It should not have cut through the paper so easily. And you know what? And do a push cut. Right through. So yeah, this little guy is really impressive. So I figured, okay, now it's acid test time. So I took this out, okay, did a bunch of passes, just like this, Maybe 10 or 15. Class A shave. Now I just shaved with it the other night. I know exactly how it shaved. This definitely kicked the edge up significantly. What I can say is this hone is a success. Works well. I made a bunch. Okay. This is the one I'm using. It's got a little mark on the back over here. I don't know if you can see it. Anyway, there are some holes in the matrix, or whatever you want to call it, binder, and holes, they're like bubbles, right? I thought at first, oh my God, what's wrong? But it turns out it's fine. It doesn't matter. Visually, it's weird, but it has no effect on the edge at all. Did a lot of testing, did a lot of scoping. There is maybe a possibility of the holes like sort of helping to remove little tiny shreds from the apex that flake off. Because I did notice something after my shave, after the touch-up, and I put it under the scope. Just kind of looked like maybe it was cleaned up or something. So, I don't know. That could be anything. That could be from stropping. It could be whatever. Bottom line is the little bubble holes. They're macro, not micro. They're macroscopic. They're really tiny, but you can see them with the naked eye. They're everywhere. Edges are beveled. I don't know how long is what's the size of this thing? It's like 4 by like 1.5. I'll probably put a few up in my store for sale. I don't know if this is going to be a production run. It takes is a lot of work just to make a few. I can only make a few at one time. I'm doing this at home. I don't have a factory, okay? I don't have big vats of shit to stir with giant paddles and giant ovens and racks. I don't have that, okay? So I can really only knock out a few at a time. And I'll be honest, I just kind of wanted to do this just for the sake of doing it, okay? I remember, back to like forum morons, okay? When I first mentioned that I was going to start doing this ditwad this like towny Long Island twit had a lot of like negative commentary to make. The guy couldn't help himself. He's just he has the IQ of like a houseplant, a dumb houseplant, and he kept going on and on and on about how like a regular person can't make their own home. Well, if you remember running your mouth off, Mr. Asshole, here's the fucking hone, and it rocks. So you can go fuck yourself. Okay? Anyway, so that's the story of that. Listen, just wanted to do a quick vid, and maybe I went too long, but, you know, too bad. So here are my penguins. They want to, like, say goodbye. They like being in the closing shot. They're my mascots. And, have them around. This Greaves is great. It's ready to rock again. This blade is shaving great. This little hone, nice piece. You know, is it the answer to everybody's problems? No, it isn't. It's just like another Barber Hone kind of thing. So, you know, if you had this in a DOP kit and you were traveling and you need to bump your edge up, and it's like, it's good. It's good. If it drops, it'll crack. Can't lap it, can't really do much with it. You just got to leave it the way it is and roll with it, okay? It's not perfectly flat. It doesn't need to be. That's another bit of wonderment about this thing. It doesn't have to be perfectly flat. Just a light touch and boom, 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 it's done. Anyway, listen, until next time, take care. Between now and then, spend some time with your family, do some good stuff, get your razors on the stones, make some good edges, have some good shaves, and until next time, take care. Talk to you soon.